Starting today, we will discuss a book published in September 2024, titled Second Act: What Late Bloomers Can Tell You About Success and Reinventing Your Life. The author of this book is Henry Oliver, a human resources consultant and columnist. This book is closely related to an economist we often mention, Tyler Cowen. In 2022, Cowen sponsored Oliver to write this book through a fund called Emergent Ventures, because they both share an interest in the topic of late-blooming talent. The idea that talent can emerge late is good news for everyone. If you have long felt unrecognized, thinking, someone as brilliant as me should have led a remarkable life. So why, after more than 20 years, am I still drifting in the crowd? Then you don't need to worry too much. And it's not just about 20 years. Even at an older age, you still have opportunities to change your fate and achieve great things. You might be a late bloomer. Someone whose potential unfolds later in life. Oliver defines late bloomers as those who achieve success when no one expects them to. You might look back on decades of your life and see no major achievements, only to suddenly encounter an opportunity that propels you to accomplish something extraordinary, ushering in the second act of your life. Others may call it a miracle, but it's not a miracle. There's a science behind it. I find second act especially relevant for today's Chinese readers. There's a prevailing age discrimination in the workplace, with talk of how people over 35 are supposedly past their prime. But this mindset neither aligns with China's current trends nor the broader global reality. On one hand, China is transitioning into an aging society and has already begun delaying retirement. If today's generation won't be retiring until after 60, why should people be deemed obsolete at just 35? On the other hand, traditional labor-intensive jobs in construction and manufacturing, fields that favor younger workers, are decreasing. China urgently needs economic transformation, with a significant expansion of service industries, particularly in research, education, and culture, sectors that emphasize intelligence, experience, and character. And aren't these precisely the strengths of middle-aged professionals? While many in China start planning for retirement at 50, middle-aged Americans are still bursting with energy, starting businesses, switching careers, or even learning new disciplines. The global trend is that human lifespans are getting longer and healthier. Why give up so early? As far back as 1932, an American writer named Walter Pitkin wrote a bestseller titled Life Begins at 40. That was nearly 100 years ago. Later, people updated the phrase to 50 is the new 40. Now it's even said that 60 is the new 40. Your life may not have truly begun yet. In the UK, the employment rate for women over 50 was 42% in 1992. Today, it's 66%. After the 2008 financial crisis, a large number of people over 50 in both the UK and the US re-entered the workforce. French philosopher Michel de Montaigne once said, "Sometimes the body first submits to age, sometimes the mind." This book doesn't focus on the body, but it also isn't simply telling you to grit your teeth and keep working. Instead, it argues that, after middle age, people may seize opportunities for a major transformation and achieve something they never dared to imagine before. Oliver's writing combines social science with biographies, sharing the success stories of people from various fields, many of whom are contemporary figures. I highly appreciate this approach. If we want to learn, we should learn from living, breathing role models. These individuals exist in the same world as us. If they can succeed, so can we. A great feature of American culture is that movies frequently portray contemporary figures, not just to glorify them, but to reveal their flaws and complexities. As a result, audiences don't deify them, nor do they despise them. They simply realize that they too have a chance. And the real stories in this book are even more relatable than movies. One of the featured individuals is Chris Gardner, the real-life inspiration behind Will Smith's film The Pursuit of Happyness. Gardner was a black man with no formal education, no connections, and no professional skills. He was divorced, raising a child alone, and struggling to survive. As a salesman, he looked up to the company's top salespeople, envying their $80,000 annual salaries, wondering when he could ever make that much. One day, In a parking lot, he saw a man driving a Ferrari and asked what job he had to afford such a car. The man replied, "I'm a stockbroker. I make $80,000 a month." That moment changed Gardner's life. He resolved to become a stockbroker. And eventually, he did. A single story might be inspiring, but to truly learn from it, you must study the experiences of many people and identify the common patterns. The bad news is that not every middle-aged person can seize opportunities. Opportunities favor the prepared mind. But most people have only prepared their age. This book examines those who seem to have no accomplishments yet had quietly been preparing for years. The key is, they didn't even realize they were preparing. A lifetime of struggles led to valuable insights. But not all experiences are equally valuable. Let's first clarify. What kind of knowledge actually makes you money? With large language models, making information instantly retrievable. And even capable of understanding, applying, and innovating. What kind of knowledge can still set you apart? Or, in investing terms, what kind of knowledge provides alpha returns? It's certainly not publicly available knowledge that AI can easily process. The most valuable knowledge is that which has not yet been digitized. Insights gained from first-hand observation and experience. It's the kind of knowledge that AI can't provide accurately, because there's no existing data for it. AI might guess, but it can't be certain, and others won't trust it completely. This real-world, experience-based intuition is the most valuable expertise. A late bloomer flourishes because they have been accumulating such insights all along. Of course, character traits matter too, but we'll discuss those later. For now, let's focus on experience. Economist David Galenson classifies talent into two categories: conceptual artists and experimental artists. Conceptual artists start with a good hand, quickly identifying the right methodology for creating value, which makes their actions highly systematic. They follow the correct path from fundamental principles and achieve success quickly. For example, if you showed talent from a young age, studied computer science at Tsinghua University, earned a PhD at Stanford, and then joined OpenAI to develop cutting-edge models, you might think it's just normal. But you're incredibly fortunate. Many famous figures, like Mozart and Picasso, gained recognition at a young age and belong to this category. Experimental artists, on the other hand, often spend a long time without knowing what they want to do. Imagine someone who dreams of becoming a musician in their youth, but struggles to find a way in. After years of effort, they realize they can't even make a living from music, so they give up and take an ordinary job. Decades later, just before retirement, they pass by a place where someone is playing music, and their old dream resurfaces, prompting them to start creating again. Such a person might be a late bloomer. In fact, there's nothing wrong with dreams arriving late. One author mentioned in the book published their first book in their 50s, and completed their masterpiece at 80. The key is that late bloomers don't just appear out of nowhere. Experimental artists may be doing something else, but they are still exploring. Through continuous practice and trial and error, they accumulate insights over time. They may take many detours, but they are not wasting time. Studies have found that the most remarkable U.S. presidents were not the ones who rose rapidly through the ranks at a young age. Instead, they were individuals with complex life experiences. Those who could quickly adapt to new situations and had open minds. If you want to build something meaningful, you need a diverse range of experiences. Let's look at a concrete example. One field that child prodigies couldn't possibly dominate: McDonald's. The hamburger has existed since the late 19th century. In simple terms, it's just ground beef between slices of bread. It was standardized in the early 1920s when a chef named Walter Anderson invented a method of pressing ground beef on the grill with a spatula to give it a uniform shape, making mass production easier. At that time, automobiles were becoming popular in the US and people loved convenient grab-and-go food. Anderson opened a restaurant called White Castle, dedicated to selling hamburgers. The brand still exists today. The key advantage of White Castle was standardization. No matter where you drove, every White Castle restaurant served identical food, with consistent hygiene standards and operating procedures, which reassured customers. Later, two brothers, Maurice and Richard McDonald, who were already running a restaurant in their 40s, noticed that hamburgers were the best-selling item. So, they opened a new restaurant focused solely on hamburgers. This was the beginning of McDonald's. Their most distinctive idea was the golden arches at the entrance, making the restaurant visible to drivers from a distance. More importantly, the McDonald brothers realized that customers wanted their food served fast. So, they further optimized efficiency, fully standardizing burger preparation, identifying the best fryer for French fries, replacing ceramic cups with paper cups, and introducing dedicated services for children. Their core advantage was speed. While traditional restaurants had waiters serve food at the table, McDonald's could prepare a burger in just 50 seconds, allowing customers to pick it up at the counter. The result? McDonald's became a massive hit, with long lines of customers waiting outside. However, the brothers were content with their success. After opening a few stores and making enough money, they had no ambition to scale further. In 1954, a 52-year-old milkshake machine salesman named Ray Kroc visited McDonald's to sell his products. Seeing how successful the restaurant was, he told the brothers he was very interested in their business. The brothers, being generous, gave him a full tour, assuming he wanted to copy their model and open a similar restaurant. But Kroc wasn't thinking about opening a single restaurant. He was thinking about how to turn McDonald's into a nationwide brand. Instead of funding new locations himself, Kroc envisioned a franchise system. While franchising is common today, at the time, it was a novel idea. There weren't even established legal frameworks for it. White Castle had also experimented with franchising, but they did it by selling regional licenses, essentially letting franchisees operate independently within a state. Kroc, however, introduced a radically different approach. Individual store franchises, with strict control over every detail. His core belief was that every McDonald's outlet across the country had to maintain absolute consistency, because only then could the brand become truly powerful. Now, you might wonder, how did Kroc, just a salesman with no restaurant experience, have such vision? What made him so sure this would work? Kroc wasn't highly educated. He had served in the military, driven ambulances for hospitals, played piano in bars to make ends meet, and faced multiple job losses. Even in his 50s, he was still just a traveling salesman. But Kroc was an observer of life. He approached every job with passion, constantly analyzing what worked. For example, while playing piano, he noticed that fixed-price meal deals sold best, leading him to realize that people preferred standardized offerings. While selling milkshake machines, he visited countless kitchens, gaining an in-depth understanding of restaurant operations and efficiency. Kroc never expected to one day own McDonald's, but he was always preparing for something bigger. He was a classic experimental artist. The McDonald brothers had no interest in scaling up, but Kroc took over the business and turned it into a global empire. This story was even made into a movie, and audiences criticized Kroc for stealing the brothers' business. We may never know the full truth of what happened, but one thing is clear. McDonald's expansion was Kroc's achievement. Every innovation in the burger business came from hands-on experience. You need this kind of sensitivity to accumulate real expertise. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.